If you're an entrepreneur who knows that the only thing holding you back is the way that you're speaking about your business and your offers on the platforms that you're on, or maybe you're not even speaking on the platforms that you're on and you know you need to, you definitely want to listen to today's podcast because we have a speaker coach with us, Heather Sager, and she is going to share how this has completely transformed her business. And now she's helping others to do the same. Welcome to the Breakthrough Mastermind Show. I'm your host, Jen Argue, and I facilitate masterminds for women entrepreneurs who want to grow their businesses to help others and create financial independence. I am so excited to have my friend Heather with us today. She is an expert speaker and a speaking coach, and she has delivered more than 1,000 presentations on stages globally, coaching hundreds of business owners and serving as an executive at a startup that scaled and sold for $161 million. So Heather has seen firsthand how learning to be a masterful and authentic communicator can be anyone's golden ticket to making an impact while smashing your business and life goals. I'm so excited to have Heather Sager with us today. And Heather, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself so people know a little more about you?
Yeah, thrilled to be here, Jen. Thanks so much for having me. This has been a long time coming. I've been waiting for you to launch a podcast so I can come speak on it. So a little bit about me. I'm a speaking coach. I specifically work with online coaches, course creators, essentially people who are building businesses online. And for me, I spent 15 years speaking on stages around the world, delivering presentations on sales and communication and leadership. And what was interesting is when I joined the online space, I found that so many business owners stumbled when it came time, not just talking about what they know, but talking about what they know as a function of marketing, i.e., when a business owner gets on a live stream or like this, speaks on a podcast or does a webinar or speaks at an event stage. The thing that a lot of people think about is they think public speaking is about relaying information. Well, when you're an entrepreneur, public speaking is about persuasion because it's actually a marketing tool. So after seeing so many business owners stumble at it, I said, holy crap, there is the area that I could help the most. So right out of the gate, when I started my speaking business and coaching business, I said, I'm going to help online entrepreneurs better communicate what they do and connect with their audiences so they can actually sell their programs and do the amazing things that they do. So that's what I do today. I do that through my online program. It's a group coaching program called Speak Up to Level Up. I do that through my podcast, The Heather Sager Show. And I do that hanging out on Reels and Instagram stories every single day, making a fool out of myself, but trying to figure out the social media game.
You do such a great job of that. And we met at an Amy Porterfield conference way back when, before the pandemic.
Before the world ended.
Right. And it was so great. I really loved getting to know you and just extending our relationship even beyond that conference, because I so believe in what you're doing, that you really are helping the entrepreneur get their message out in an effective way. And I like how you say that it's stages that aren't just stages. You know, they're live streams, they're podcasts, they're anywhere where your voice is heard.
It totally is that. And see, for me, it was fascinating. I've always been really comfortable on a stage. I mean, I was a really, really shy kid and I'm still a total introvert, but performing, I was a singer growing up. So performing, that was something that was really comfortable for me. So when I found myself in job opportunities that put me on stages, I got really good on stage. And I also learned that because I was so good on stage, I was also really good in a boardroom. Or I became a really good leader having one-on-ones with my team, or speaking at staff meetings, or on sales calls. All these different ways that I would interact with other people, they were so much more powerful because I understood the gift of communication and I used it so effectively. So I think a lot of people are very short-sighted when they think of speaking. They think that it's this big moment on a stage, but honestly, how often does the average entrepreneur talk on a stage? Like not very often, but we use our voices every single day. So I encourage entrepreneurs to think about that and really start thinking about how they leverage their communication to build relationships and to become more effective.
So good. One of the things that we do in this podcast is we look at the behind the scenes of a business. And so, one of the things that I think is really important for the listener to hear is, how did you get to this point in your business? You kind of just touched upon it, but I would love to hear, what's the journey that you've been on to get to where you're at now, from being in the boardroom to an online entrepreneur?
This is the picture that you see in presentations where people think the journey is a straight line, but really it's like a squealy, like loop-de-doop-de journey. Mine's not, I mean, not so crazy, but before starting my business, I was an executive for a consulting company that we worked specifically with online entrepreneurs. So I like to say I had this wonderful one foot in the corporate side, though it was a startup business that we grew and actually sold the business for a ridiculously high valuation. It was awesome, but it was like an entrepreneurial turned corporate. I was there, but we worked with entrepreneurs. So I had my foot in the curriculum and content that I worked with. I ran the training team. So I had a team of trainers, educators, recruiters that we helped all of these entrepreneurs all over North America how to run their businesses effectively, guide their teams, and with their sales processes. So my world was around working with entrepreneurs, but the environment that I worked in was a corporate environment. So it was very fascinating. I learned the corporate jargon. I learned how to flourish in that environment. But at the end of the day, my heart and who I effectively spoke with every day on a stage or in a classroom or in a workshop, it was entrepreneurs. So after, man, I did that role specifically about a decade. And we ran conferences, we traveled all around the world. It was pretty incredible. And one day I was speaking at an event in Copenhagen with another company. They had me come out to speak. And I remember the CEO of that company pulled me aside to give me some great praise for how awesome the workshop was. But he pulled me aside and he said, I don't think you realize that how special it is what you do. And I did the typical thing that we as women do, where I brushed it off and said, oh, I have a crazy, like awesome team. Like we've worked really hard on this. We planned our asses off. But the fact was, this workshop was in Denmark to a group of non-English speakers. And I don't speak another language. I only speak English. So kid you not, I led a 2-day workshop in English for a non-English speaking group. And I was able to do that, one, with the help of a translator, but two, with my ability to facilitate really incredible like conversations and workshops. And he told me, look, this has nothing to do with the content, everything to do with how you connect and how you design curriculum in a way that really speaks to people and moves people and excites them about a topic that is not exciting. So he kind of kicked me, and he's the one that planted the seed of, have you ever thought about doing this on your own? And in my head, I'm like, there's no way, like no one's going to pay me to do this. Like, that's just crazy. I'd been living under the safety net of the brand I was working for, but it started a little bit of a seed. And at the time I was pregnant with my second baby, very pregnant. And I thought, man, this traveling all around the world is fun, but do I want to do it with 2 kids at home?
Yeah.
And the answer was, if I'm going to travel, I want to do it and be well paid for it, instead of just collecting my standard salary that didn't pay me any additional money for all the airplanes. So I decided I wanted to start my own business, and I thought I wanted to be a speaker, and then very quickly realized that while I love being on stages, the thing that lit me up most was seeing my message spark a light in other people for them to go out and serve their audiences. So I landed on this, what if I taught other people how to speak? I'd been doing it as a development program inside my company for years with my own team, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So my business started as me getting paid to speak. I would go in and speak to groups. I took on a handful of coaching clients, and then within 6 to 9 months of starting my business, I was running my first group coaching program. And that's the same program in a kind of a elevated format that I have today, but Speak Up to Level Up has been out and running since right after we met. I was in launch when you and I met at that event since 2019 in the fall.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
It's
It
pretty
was so
cool.
cool that I got to see you right in the beginning.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I was definitely the first time online launch, freaking out, being like, oh, I got to go set another webinar invite and trying to figure out all my stuff. And it's just funny the things we have to fumble through the first time we do something, but
Oh yeah.
same with speaking, right? But the first time you do it, everything's all awkward and fumbly and you think everything's a big deal. And you
Hmm.
do it a few times and you laugh about how silly it was, those thoughts at the beginning. I think that's
Hmm.
everything in business.
And I love that you have been really focused on this niche, that this has been it for the last few years. You haven't changed. You haven't, maybe you've morphed your program to serve your audience better, but you've really stuck with this. And I wanted to ask you, there is an objection that I hear quite frequently among different coaches who maybe struggle with using their voice online. And that is the idea that people who are really good online, whether it's, live streams or reels or videos of any type, podcasting even, that those people tend to have a background in either theater or teaching. And what hope is there for anyone who doesn't have those backgrounds? So I thought that might be a good question for you, because that is something that I hear that comes up often as an objection or maybe even an excuse. And what would you say to that?
Think about anything in our lives that we see other people around us doing. The people who are really good at it, or just the people who've done it a hell of a lot more than we have. I think we like to think that, oh, people are special, so therefore they're better at it. And okay, I'll give you this kind of real talk right here for a moment. There is a phrase that so many people use to overcome this objection in their webinars or during their launches. And it's exactly what you're saying, where people would say, I'm not special, I'm just like you. And then they launch into this whole idea around how we're exactly the same. I don't ever say that, because the fact is my life has been a series of really weird events that have perfectly primed me for what I do right now. I mean, I'm talking not only did I have that corporate speaking gig and speak on stages, but before that, I ran a nonprofit for years and I was the main spokesperson doing the fundraising. Before that, I used to compete in speech competitions. And then somewhere along the way, I took a run at Miss America and did a ton of work on stage. So for me to even pretend for a moment that I am not special and I don't have a special set of skills, it's just completely misleading. And I think it's the same when anybody else on stage says that they're not special. I think we're all special in our own way. The question is, can we look back in the rearview mirror and ask, what are the skills that might not be exactly what we're doing right now or what we want to do, but there are skills that we can pull from that we have done that we can apply to this scenario in front of us. So maybe somebody's here like, oh, I've never done live video before. Well, have you effectively had conversations before? Like when you talk with your best friend over coffee, are you getting all weird and fumbly being like, what do I say to her? No, and unless you're having an awkward conversation, then maybe you question that. But words fluidly come out of each of us. It's just for some reason when we decide to make it formal and say it's a live video or it's I don't know, it's on a stage or it's a podcast interview, we get all awkward about it. And that's okay. It's totally normal. Like this is not a normal, natural thing we do on camera, but we have to acknowledge that we do actually have more experience than we give ourselves credit for. We have to figure out how to make our past experience translate to help us with our confidence for this newish thing that we're doing. So when I say if somebody's naturally good at video, I pish posh. Like, I don't think anybody's naturally good at it. I just think they have a better maybe set of skills to draw from their past experience. But I think there's just not enough credit given for repetitions. You just have to do it, and you do it a lot. And sure, people like me can teach you how to be more effective at it, how to feel better and more confident when you do it. But we can't do the reps for you. You have to do it yourself.
That's so important to hear for people who have that objection, that it's a different story that they maybe need to craft for their past, that there are examples, like you're saying, there are things from their past that they can reframe as having prepped them for this moment and doing the reps, just like you said.
Yeah. I think one thing just to add on that is making sure that you have an example to pull from that has somebody that resonates more so with you and your style. I think where people get tripped up, let's say, for example, maybe you hear me speak or you see me speak on camera and you're like, wow, she talks so fast and she has this energy and she's really fluid and she has great stories and great metaphors and bada, bada, bada. Like, I don't know. These are all things people have said to me before, but somebody, let's say, who's more slower in their style, maybe they're a lot more thoughtful. They really rely on data and numbers, and I'm trying to make my voice go differently to show that this is contrast to me, right? I'm way more energetically. Somebody who is not in this level of energy as I'm speaking today, if you were to see me and be like, oh, I'm never going to be that, that's probably true, because our personalities and just communication styles are not the same. It would be like me watching, let's see, flipping through a magazine, let's say a Nordstrom's catalog, and I look at these like outfits that I would never in my life wear, but I can point at them and be like, oh, that's awesome for someone else. But I wouldn't be thinking like, oh, that's for me if it's not my style. You have to think about that with other people, with speakers too. Find people that you can say, oh, I like their style. I'll give you an example of this. I was working last year with Tyler McCall, and we were working on a presentation he was giving for a conference he was hosting. And I remember asking him how he wanted to come across. And one of the examples he pulled from was said, I love the way that Barack Obama speaks. His pace, I can't remember the phrase he used, but there was just this pace and demeanor in how he speaks that's soothing. It can be intense, but it just feels good and has this great confident pace about it. And I remember very clearly thinking, okay, I cannot use my crazy energy stories with Tyler because doing the Heather way is not going to be congruent with Tyler's personality and what he wants to appear as. He wants more of the Obama effect. So we have to think about that. Find models that you can look at and be like, oh, I can see myself growing into that. Don't try to model yourself after people have that totally different personalities.
I think that's so good, because then it also makes you more alert to all the different styles that are out there that are completely different. And like you're saying, not everybody has to have the same style.
Yeah. And they're not necessarily one like high energy, whatever upbeat. That's not any better than someone who is going to be more serious or slower in their pace. It's just different styles. And the beautiful thing, we as people all have different styles. So your audience is going to resonate with you if you show up with your style. But if you show up as someone else's style and it's inauthentic, you're not going to attract your people. You're going to attract people that you really don't like working with. So don't do that.
And that is such a good note, I think, for the entrepreneur who's listening right now to hear, because we're talking about how to build a successful business, which you have done just from starting in 2019, which is so amazing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And when we look at business growth and success, there's the inner game and there's the strategic stuff that we do. So when you think about the inner game or the soft skills, what to you has really helped you build into the success of your business?
You know, I thought about this question a lot over the last week or so as you and I were chatting with it. I'm like, oh man, this is one of those really insightful questions that you want to be like, oh, it's so good, write it down. I think my answer to this question would probably change if I were to be asked this every day for the next 30 days. But the thing that's coming to mind for me right now is I have always had this relentless sense of I'll figure it out. And not to steal from the Figure Outable playbook by Marie Forleo. I was saying that before that, by the way, but I think we all were to some degree, but maybe that's why that book resonated so much with so many people. But I've always had this belief that it doesn't matter what the heck happens. I'll make it work. And, you know, I think we're going to go a little left turn here for a moment, but I think that goes back to me as a kid. When I was in high school, my mom was diagnosed with cancer when I was a freshman in high school.
Wow.
And I remember I had a lot of other things going on at that time as a freshman, trying to figure out how to be cool and get a boyfriend. But I just remember thinking like, wow, this was a pretty big life shift. I kind of ignored it, but my mom's cancer returned when I was a senior in high school and it was terminal. And I remember thinking 17-year-old kid watching my mom essentially wither away. I remember thinking like, oh, I'm a senior. This is not the end for me. This is just the start of my life. And how do I start life without my mom? And I remember like this deep sense of shit might hit the fan, but you will be okay. Like the absolute worst of things can happen, but you will be okay. You will figure it out. And I did. And I've done very well with it. And in fact, my mom's story has been a very central start of a lot of my speaking engagements over the last now 20 years since she's been gone. But I think that sense of the absolute worst disaster can happen and I can still pick up the pieces and figure it out. That has served me so well throughout business, throughout life. But this idea that I think we have a tendency to freak out when things go wrong. I see things as going wrong as just lessons or just pivots or whatever generic meme that you want to put there. There's so many ways that we can say that. But I just think so many people take things that are just not important.
Yeah.
And we think it's the end of the world. If you have not experienced cancer or death or real tragedy, you don't know what you're really capable of. You don't know what you can actually handle. So I just think we all could give ourselves a little bit more credit that these big things that happen in our businesses that are not a big deal, like the back end of our tech breaking or our webcam going out in the middle of the webinar, like, oh, frickin' I know it's stressful, but you'll figure it out. And if you can have the patience and the trust in yourself to navigate that moment, I actually find that better things come on the back end of something pretty crazy like that. Like you could actually make those really horrific situations with tech, with your business, with life, you can actually make them really beautiful if you choose.
And I think you're bringing up a point that's even so much more important than building a successful business. It's living a life that's worth living. It's being your best self and showing up as your best self in life, which helps you in business. I think too, you have something that also plays into this resilience aspect that you have, this figure it out aspect that you have. And that is the hearing situation that you have.
The hearing situation.
Can you describe it for me, please?
Yeah. So one of the wonderful gifts my mother gave me was I inherited a genetic condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is a fancy way to say I have very brittle bones. In fact, it's one of the conditions that if you've ever been pregnant, you are scanned for in your pregnancy to figure out whether or not your baby has it. In the most severe cases, sometimes pregnancies are terminated because of it. There are a lot of variations of osteogenesis imperfecta, the worst being the baby never makes it out of the womb because their bones are that brittle.
Wow.
Obviously, that's not the case for me. I have a super, super mild case, but it's a 1 in 20 something thousand people have what I have. So in fact, most people who meet me will never encounter another person in their life that has osteogenesis imperfecta.
Wow.
All of my doctors have never met someone in real life outside of a textbook with what I have. And essentially why this is relevant to hearing is there are little tiny bones inside each of our ears that connect between our eardrum and they send the sound waves, they beat on them into the cochlea. And that is how we actually process sound and hear things. And for me, those little tiny bones stopped working when I was about 19 years old.
Wow.
And I started really struggling with hearing loss right on the aftermath of losing my mom to cancer. And the really interesting thing was trying to navigate my adult life while trying to understand my hearing changing was a really interesting thing. You see, the thing about hearing, it's not noticeable like our eyesight. Like imagine you and I right now are standing in a room and somebody in the corner takes the light switch and it's a dimmer. And they start dimming down the lights. Well, if the lights start dimming slowly, you'll notice. But when the lights start getting so dark that you can't really see my face, you start squinting, right? And you start really having to pay attention to see the details as the lights go down. But you notice that you have to strain really, really hard to make out the face of the person in front of you. Well, the thing about sound is we don't notice the dimming. there's no noticeable squinting with hearing that you're trying to make out sounds. Is we think of hearing as either you hear it or you don't. It's a volume thing. But there's actually some interesting dynamics with hearing that actually are more about the pronunciation, more about the sounds of letters and the sounds of our voices that help us paint this picture of what we're hearing, and it happens through our brain. Well, for me, in the absence of not knowing any of that, I just started struggling to communicate and connect with people around me. Mm-hmm. And I felt myself go completely inward through college, where I just thought that I was a highly ambitious one-woman show who was going to kick ass and build a corporate career. And I didn't have a lot of deep, close personal friends because I really struggled to connect with people. Mm-hmm. So for me, the loss of hearing actually unlocked a pretty incredible gift that I have now, which is an ability to hear people when they're not speaking at all. So I can read people based off of I can't read lips. Let's just clarify that. I cannot read lips for the life of me, but I can read people based off of their body language. I can see whether or not somebody's interested or excited or reserved or sad or angry or frustrated or whatever emotion you want. I can see when people are skeptical. I notice when people are not bought in. Even if they're giving you the signals they're bought in, you can tell when somebody is not bought into your idea. And when I eventually got hearing aids and then I started speaking professionally, I had no idea how much that gift of communicating with people when I was speaking, how powerful that was. Wow. And that's really how I learned to be more persuasive, to be more empathetic, to change my energy, to change my voice, to change my approach and how I ask questions. It's because I could immediately see how people were resonating with my conversations or with my presentations. It really changed things. So it's like when I said earlier, rearview mirror of all of my experiences have perfectly prepared me for now. That's why I can't sit here and say that, oh, somebody can be exactly as me as a speaker. Well, no, I have a really unique skill set, but part of that skill set has allowed me to replicate it in a way where I can teach other people to also be successful with changing their voice and anticipating what their audience needs. I'm not going to make it so they can't hear, but I definitely can help them read their audiences in a more effective way.
And I think that's a beautiful way that you've really turned that gift into a blessing for those around you, that you are such a good teacher. You've really honed those skills and you have all of these lessons that you learned early on because you were in a challenging situation. And now you can help so many others with this because this is really an overlooked skill. I think this whole skill set of knowing body language and how to connect and empathy and persuasion with trying to help people with the offers that you have. And so that's really a beautiful, beautiful thing that has come out of that challenge for you.
I like to think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we think about building a successful business, there's also the hard skills or the tech or strategy. What in that category has really helped you have success?
Okay. I don't know that I would classify these as hard skills. So it's like my sales skills are really good. So the thing, I don't get to publicly talk about this a lot, but the thing that I really spoke on stages for 10 years on was a sales process. Okay. So get this, the thing that I taught for 10 years was a sales program specifically for audiologists to work with patients. And just to translate for anyone who doesn't know what an audiologist is a hearing care doctor. So get this, yes, the girl with the hearing loss worked with hearing doctors for 10 years. And imagine this for a moment. Doctors go to school to learn how to help people, not expecting that they're going to have to sell something. And what's fascinating, what most people don't realize is hearing aids are typically not covered by insurance, or they're covered very small. And they are tiny computers that live in 2 of your ears. So imagine a little tiny computer that you have to buy to put in your ears that only lasts like an iPhone for 3 or 4 years. So patients who go in, typically a demographic that's 70 plus, they go in, find out that, oh, they're aging and they're losing their hearing. And oh, by the way, these little tiny computers are going to cost you almost 10 grand. and you'll have to buy them again every 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
So set up the scene on that. Can you imagine being somebody who is an expert at what you do? You know how to help people, you know how to program those hearing aids in just a way that that person in front of you is going to be able to hear their grandchild, or they're going to be able to go back to church again and hear the sermon, or whatever their scenario is. The difference between you being able to do that and that person actually saying yes and experience it is your ability to effectively persuade them that they need to invest $10,000 with you, or whatever the dollar amount is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got really good at selling, but the specific way I got good at selling was connecting the dots between what people truly want and how to help them see how to get it. Mm-hmm. That to me is what selling is. And I think the struggle that most entrepreneurs have is they think that they have something that people really want. And their job is to convince people that they need this thing, that they want this thing. But selling really isn't about that. It's about really, truly understanding that in person and coming at it from where they are, what people say, their pain points, what's their problems? What are they struggling with? What are they frustrated with? What are they really thinking about? Because I can tell you this, hands down, 10 out of 10, it is not the things that you want to talk about. It is not your 10 tips for this or 5 tips for that. Those are all things that you love talking about because you're an expert at what you do, but your person is living in a different world and they need you to come into their world to see it and for you to help them understand how your solution is going to help them get what they want. So I got really, really good at that. In translation, that's not only been really effective for me of selling my programs or my coaching services, and I've been able to increase my prices time over time again on my programs and my one-on-one services because I've gotten really good at selling. And I think that is just a skill that every entrepreneur needs to embrace. And we have to stop saying, I hate selling, because that's only going to make you worse. So if you find yourself, if you've ever said it, it's okay. But if you are listening to this right now, you have to make the promise to yourself that says, I am good at sales. And that is a good thing. And I think if more of us embrace that, we'd be asking better questions versus running away from the one thing that's going to grow our businesses, which is money. We have to make money to stay in business.
Yes, we do. That's what actually defines a business, right?
Yeah.
That's so good. And I had that experience too when I was working. I work a lot with therapists, and I went to school to become a clinical therapist. And after, getting my own practice, I realized that same thing. Like, we're not taught how to run a business. We're taught how to help people, but how can you help people if they're not coming in? So that's really cool that you took that situation and you are using that now in your new offers that you have for people.
Yeah. And not only, just to be really explicit with it, not only am I using it, I'm obviously very good at selling, but for me, it is the way in which I communicate. So even like right now in this whole thing, I'm selling all y'all on all of my ideas, the stories that I'm telling, the way that I'm phrasing things, everything that we're talking about here is me selling to you to get bought into this idea that you need to accept selling. You need to get on the train when it comes to speaking. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. And it's the way in which I teach my clients to speak. People think they're coming to me for a signature talk that's going to help them package up their expertise in a way that connects their ideal customer, which is true. But I'm teaching them at the core how to sell like a ninja. Like, that is what really good speaking is yes, we're going to work on the body language. Yes, we're going to work on the tone. Yes, we're going to craft the stories and the messages, but I'm teaching them how to stitch them together in a way that makes selling effortless. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of speaking that I do.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about you. And I trust you so much in what you teach, because you're teaching so many different levels. You're offering the signature package, but you're also offering the things that really make it effective and that really help people to have success in what they're doing. And what do we want success in? We want success in helping people. We want to help people. And you have that multi-layered approach. And you not only teach that approach in your things that you offer, which I've seen and admire so much, but you also use it. Like, it's so meta, but you use it as, it's who you are. It's just a part of you. And And I thought what would be really fun, because I knew you would be doing this because I know you, and you exude everything that you are and that you teach, that you would be using a lot of this type of language in our time today. And so I did want to put a little challenge out to the listener as you are listening to this. I would love if you could go back and count how many times Heather used phrases that she is actually including in a freebie that she's offering to you. And this freebie is called 19 Magnetic Phrases to Use on Stages, Podcasts, and Live Video that'll send your audience running to your opt-in. And this is an opt-in you need in your life. So in the 19 magnetic phrases, I already have the opt-in, and it is fabulous. And she includes a bonus in it, which is even more than you would ever expect from an opt-in. But all of these phrases, her bonus video training that she has included in it, are so worth your time and effort to check out. And once you do, you can go back, listen to this podcast from the beginning, and count all the times that Heather has used this. And I think one of the objections that I hear people say sometimes is that, if I use these things, it's going to sound corny. It's going to sound canned. And here's my challenge. Go back and listen to this podcast. Did anything Heather ever said sound that way? No, it was so natural and so beautiful and fluid, and really did demonstrate how you can have that credibility woven into the way that you speak so naturally. And also the persuasiveness and all the different things that you're giving us here. It all was so natural.
Thank you so much. I've never been given a complete evaluation live on a podcast before, so this is wonderful.
I like to do my research.
Yeah, this is great. Let me say a couple things, right? So talking about this whole don't want to sound like a robot or sound scripted, I'm going to go on the record and say, I have a real beef with swipe files, scripts, and anybody who sells you, here's exactly what to say to be effective. I have a real beef with that. And actually for years, my clients and students have asked me, Heather, will you please give us a script or give us a list of things to say? And I keep saying no, because the whole point is when you you steal somebody else's words, it's no longer authentic. It's like what I mentioned earlier in that example, that when you try to sound like someone else, even borrowing someone's words, you lose that authenticity and you lose the ability to connect your right customer. So let me say this. I hated, I avoided it. I would not include scripts. I would not do any of that in my program. And what I started realizing was so many people were struggling with this one specific part when they would work their tail offs to get on a podcast interview or to go live. They finally have the courage to go live on video, or they would be so excited because they got to guest speak inside a mastermind filled with their dream clients. People would go crazy. And then they would be so mad because it would be all this effort and nothing would happen to their email list. And it was even if you have the best message on the planet, if you can't get people on your email list, what the heck are you doing? Online business is about growing your audience and making offers. So I finally said, okay, I have to do something to help people. And so I have to create some way to give them phrases without sounding like a robot or someone else. So the way that I've designed these are actual fill in the blanks that you can use. And I encourage you to make them your own. So if you're an online entrepreneur, if you have masterminds or group programs, or if you are wanting to build out an online presence and you want to attract people, you want to be able to talk about your offers and you want to be able to get people on your email list or even just to follow you on Instagram. If you want people to take an action after hearing you speak, then these phrases are going to help you do just that. So what you can do is just insert your specific, like, here's my niche, or here's my audience, or here's how they talk about themselves. Literally, it's a fill in the blank. And then you can test these phrases on yourself. I've already had so many people download this. I was telling Jen, I haven't even advertised it yet. And we've had, just over the weekend, over 100 people downloaded this and they're messaging me going, oh my gosh, I used this weekend on Instagram Reel, or my calendar is scheduled with podcast interviews this week. I printed it out and I put it on next to my webcam. Like, this is not one of those things that you're going to think about using. You will use right away. And in fact, what I just did talking about that literally is from the pages of the opt-in. So if you want to learn how to do what I just did so that people go run to grab that freebie, just like you are going to do right now, go download it. This will be the best freebie that you ever get for the growth of your business.
I mean, imagine if you had that tool to be able to grow your leads, if you had that tool to grow and expand your audience to make more offers too. I mean, how would that feel to just have this huge email list, right?
It's very exciting and I can't wait to see how people use it. So side note, send me a message on Instagram, y'all. I'm at the Heather Sager. Let me know what you use with it. Cause that's always the exciting part is how do we use this to actually grow our audience?
Yes, absolutely. I would love for you, the listener, to connect with Heather on Instagram, on Facebook. Which is your favorite hangout place, Heather?
Definitely Instagram. I really am not on the Facebook that much these days as many people. So yeah, Instagram, great place. I check my direct messages personally. I update all of my own social media on Instagram. So come hang out and you'll get all the latest and goodies on there. I'm always doing behind the scenes. And as I joked about at the top of the episode, I just got access to Reels. Kid you not.
I can't even believe that.
I know. I'm one of the rare people who did not have Reels. And now I am just learning like a baby doe learning to walk. I am figuring it out and having fun in the process.
Isn't that just something that Instagram makes us do that? Like getting it out to people at different times. And it's like, oh, that person got 2 years to practice it. And I'm getting like 2 months.
It's fine. Yeah. I just laugh. I'm like, I was not designed for 15-second increments, but it's a new learning opportunity for me. Look at me go.
Look at you go. I love your Reels. So this is the thing about Heather too, that I want you all to know. As you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure that you can tell that Heather over delivers when you listen to all the things that she shared with us today, as far as wanting to grow your business, to have a successful business quickly. I mean, she's done all this in this short amount of time. She over delivers in everything she does. She's spoken to my mastermind as an expert speaker in my mastermind. Over delivered, just really gave us so much gold. This opt-in that she has over delivered. I mean, she just gives so much. So really go check Heather out. Everything that she puts out is so gracious, so generous, and she's an excellent teacher. So the way that she lays it out is totally comprehensible and really easy to grasp and to implement. So I can't recommend Heather enough. Go check her out. And thank you so much, Heather, for being here today.
It's my privilege. Thanks so much, Jen.
It was so good having Heather with us today. She shared such encouragement that anybody can be an effective speaker, that with the right tools and with the right coaching, you can achieve amazing things as a speaker. In fact, she has a speaking workshop coming up. And remember, like I said, Heather over delivers. And it's a 3-part series that starts March 3rd for a low cost of $37. I highly recommend. I know you are going to get way more than the cost of this workshop out of this. So it's a 3-part series. It's going to be about using your voice, about the ways that you speak, how to monetize your speaking, and delivery skills. If I know anything about her, she packs it in. Remember, I said she came and spoke to my mastermind and was one of the people who really over-delivered when speaking to my group. I was really impressed. I know she's going to blow it out of the water with this speaking workshop. And you can Watch for the link. I will have the link up for you when that is ready. But in the meantime, I want you to be able to get your hands on the 19 magnetic phrases opt-in that she has. And you can get it by going to my website, jenargue.com/Heather Sager opt-in. Very simple, jenargue.com/Heather Sager opt-in. And you spell her last name Sager. So go on over and get that no matter what industry you're in. This is going to power you up when trying to convey the value of the opt-in that you have. So definitely get your hands on that. And I will put all of the links to connect with Heather in the show notes. And if you're looking for more support, challenge, and inspiration in running your online business, I would love to have you apply to my mastermind. Check it out at jenargue.com.